So good morning. My name is Tom Conlon. It's been a long path for me to get to VeriFone. It came through a Scandinavian country. So for those of you who might notice that I don't speak Scandinavian, I actually do speak Scandinavian, but I'm originally from the US. So I consider myself a little bit of a dual between Europe and the US, which has an advantage when you work with a global company like VeriFone. As part of what I was tasked with Point a number of years ago, we looked at NFC and we were just really, this was going to be the best thing in the world around 2009, 2010, and we put together a program. And if you remember 2009, 2010, those of you who were involved in NFC, this was going to be the next great product for point of sale for couponing. But something funny happened along the line. It didn't really take off. It moved in one direction, it moved in another direction. Thought we were getting there. And right now, it feels like in the industry that we're kind of at a crossroads with NFC, and that's really the title of my presentation. Is take a long view of where we are with NFC. And from VeriFone's perspective, it's very important because we make incredibly large investments in NFC technology. So I want to give you a broad brush view of where we think the market is going and why we think the market is going there, and then open it up maybe for some questions and some conclusions. But first, a little bit about VeriFone. We are the leader in acceptance technology probably across the globe, together with a number of other POS equipment providers. In Europe, which is something that, as being part of the VeriFone company now, we didn't really realize the penetration that we have in Europe. So across the European market, we are a leader in most of the markets in Europe, and we have probably close to more than 5 million acceptance points across the region. Globally, we have more than 20 million acceptance points, and that's growing in some markets. It's kind of stabilizing, especially here in the Nordics, where we're doing great business providing payments as a service in the market. So we have really, really good European coverage. So VeriFone, as part of what we do is, and this is the third bullet point there, we've been working very closely with the GSMA in the development of NFC standards. As an aside, the ability to pay with an NFC telephone has been standardized by the card schemes. To do value-added services, there are no standards to do value-added services. So all these services, for example, in Norway, when you want to do coupons, they actually have to develop their own protocols on top of NFC to be able to do coupons. VeriFone, together with a number of other international players, have been working to try to standardize how we do value-added services. I don't have a lot of information on this slide deck, but that's just one aspect of the way that VeriFone is supporting NFC across the region. But what's been going on with NFC now in the last, I would say, 3 years? I think that everyone in this room who's been involved in NFC projects understands that, boy, we were supposed to be there in 2014, and right now we're not having any tremendous rollout of NFC across the world. What's one of the reasons for that? One, I think for me, coming from a technology background into a product and marketing background is, boy, the technology is really good. It works really good. I can hold my phone up against something and I can send messages between this. This is great. Let's go out and roll this out around the world. And you get there, you get out to the field, and it actually works really well. But there is another balance with all the people, all the different agents and the different entities that have to cooperate in order to make it a commercial product. So was it a technology looking for a business solution, or the business ideas trying to adopt a technology that wasn't global? It's pretty difficult to say. The other thing from a payments perspective, and one of the presenters this morning mentioned it, and we have to repeat this over and over, the payment systems work really well. They work really well. They work well in Europe. They may not be considered to work so well in the US after this breach of 70 million. In Europe, boy, point of sale and at physical locations, payment works really, really well across the entire region. So what does this NFC offer that we don't already have? I think there are some things there, but it's not clear to the people who have to pay for the technology what advantages they gain by it. I think the relationship part of it is the thing that dampers everyone. I recall sitting a number of years ago at a Scandinavian conference where someone presented the model for a trusted service manager, or TSM, who is the one who actually takes care of all the certificates and everything that goes in the phone. And one of the more business-oriented people, after this complex technical presentation, said, well, so what's the business case here? And the answer was, well, we think that if at some point in time when, the fact was there was no business case. We were trying to find a business case for a technology rather than looking at a business case. And now the disruptions have happened. As the previous speaker said, Apple, and when everyone hears Apple, they run to the technology because Apple has actually changed the entire industry. That's getting a little bit, I wouldn't say stale, but Apple's changed the industry. If we think about it, it was 2005, and in terms of technology, that's 9 years ago. So Apple endorsing BLE, which is another great TLA, or three-letter acronym, because now what does BLE mean? What does that mean? How does that affect me? What does all that technology mean? Well, as soon as you see new technology, the word technology in Apple makes you run in that direction, and that's what people are doing. Google has also now endorsed that same technology, and well, as we know, all of us in NFC understand that Apple has not included NFC in their telephones. And of course, PayPal and I would say the entire payments industry has gotten a little bit, not the payments industry, but the people who aren't in the payments industry, everybody wants to get in it now. Everyone sees a gold mine to be able to do payments with mobile. I tend to be a little bit more conservative about it, and I will tell you some of the reasons why as part of this presentation. However, with all that negative press about NFC, all this negative press, NFC is not going to go anywhere, Apple doesn't endorse it, none of the schemes endorse it, it's growing every day. It's happening behind us. So you know, the classical chicken and egg problem, which I find frustrating because we had this back in the day with EMV and chip card acceptance. NFC devices, 285 million, are going to ship in 2013, or have shipped in 2013. Samsung, HTC, Sony, they've all put NFC technology in their phones. The reality is that probably within 3 to 5 years, even with Apple not participating in this, probably close to 50% of the phones will be NFC equipped. And just as an aside, I've been waiting to tell this story to an NFC group. About 3 years ago, 4 years ago in 2010, we were doing an analysis for the Point Group to find out, well, should we actually make the investment to put contactless and NFC technology into every terminal that we deliver? Because it's not a trivial decision to make. As a company, we need to be able to do it. And I was tasked with the job of doing an analysis and finding out where the market was and what was going on. And I'm a technology guy from the start, so I thought this was really exciting. I went down to Mobile World Congress, and those of you who've been to Mobile World Congress, it's mind-blowing. It's 30,000, 40,000 people. There are booths and pavilions the size of ocean-going liners. And so I went there kind of by myself and wandered up to each of these handset manufacturers and said, so what's your NFC plans? What are you doing with NFC? And in fact, this was 2010, mind you. And fundamentally, Sony said, NFC, the people on the booth said, what do you mean NFC? And Samsung had a display, NFC, and it was great, and they talked about what they wanted to do. Ericsson, which became Sony, no plans. And when I was finished with Mobile World Congress, we found out there was nobody producing handsets with NFC. 2010, it's only 4 years ago. How could we think that this market was going to explode when there's no equipment out there and no one has the plans to put the equipment out there? What changed? September 2011, could be 2010, I'm getting old. The chip that runs Bluetooth, that runs Wi-Fi, that chip got NFC added to it. So now all the telephone manufacturers, by default, except for Apple, of course, their controller chip for their other wireless technology now included NFC. And oddly enough, they went out and started doing technology experiments with their NFC phones that look like, at least on my Sony, I press a button and I'm able to hold it up against my tablet, and then I can't transfer files because the thing doesn't work, so I put it away. I don't know if anybody else has tried to do this NFC touch and transfer things between your tablet and your phone or between another phone. I want to send my pictures to my niece. I took these great pictures, and all I have to do is tap the phone against their phone, and the pictures magically transfer. Well, it doesn't magically work. So we load them up to some cloud thing, and we download them. So that technology, even today, which was supposed to be seamless, is not seamless, at least not for me in any case. It may just be me. But I can't get these file transfers to work. So where are we at with payments in terms of that? Well, what I think is the momentum of telephones are out there. And I can talk about the momentum of terminals that are out there. We have, since 2012, about 2 years, our entire product line is contactless and NFC enabled. And the markets where we really require that are the places where they have contactless cards, which is growing, by the way, as well, and it's part of payment acceptance. So the message from this slide is that there are, in fact, now a lot of chickens and a lot of eggs out there, and we have to start baking them together. So just to recap, and this is, again, a mental exercise that I went through to say, okay, so why did we have this hype in 2006 that started with NFC? And I remember the discussion about it. There was an enormous amount of momentum. And if you look at the timeline for this, by 2008, there was actually identified forums that were finalizing the technical specifications behind NFC, what you could do with NFC. And finally, by 2010, 2011, that's really when we started to see application things being layered on there by serious companies, such as being able to transfer files from one device to another device, being able to connect up Wi-Fi doing it. So those things are going on in the industry that are separate from our commercialization of NFC. And then I would say in the last 2 years, we've seen more and more traction with a number of people who are involved in commerce, including Visa and MasterCard. And I think I have a slide on that. Don't minimize the global reach of Visa and MasterCard to enable these standards on all the devices across the world, because the word ubiquitous acceptance for payment is really, really important. And today, a miracle, as much as a miracle with mobile telephones, you can take your Visa or MasterCard and use it anywhere in the world. I know that that's something that's baked in today, but for those of us who've traveled years and years ago, it used to be really difficult to pay for a hotel room. But now, anywhere in the world you can travel and your card is accepted. And Visa and MasterCard are looking for the same payment solution with mobile telephones, that ubiquitous acceptance. But I want to go back and take a look back so we get some scale and times. EMV, for those of you who remember, started in the mid-90s and evolved into something called EMV 2000 6 or 7 years later, a technical specification for contact cards. It's only now, probably 15 years later, that we have ubiquitous acceptance of EMV almost globally. The US still is not implemented, but virtually everywhere in the world we see EMV, 15-year time frame. Now, to add on to this, the EMV Co, together with the card schemes, are now standardizing NFC payments across their acceptance labs. So we have a standard way now to be able to get our acceptance equipment approved. And I have to tell you, it costs a lot of money, because today the EMV acceptance criteria now includes a whole bank of mobile phones and NFC payments with mobile phones. So our equipment is actually now being approved by Visa and MasterCard to accept NFC payments. And the standards for NFC payments with telephones are probably where EMV was in around 1999, meaning we needed another new version of the specification to make it work really, really well. And that has to do with handset manufacturers' antenna positioning, because small things make a big difference in a consumer place. If I hold my phone up and it doesn't work, I'm going to take my card out. It has to work. It just has to work every time, immediately. And I guess for us as manufacturers, we can't get approvals now. If we're going to have contactless or radio acceptance, we cannot get approvals now without having NFC approvals. So, for example, it's not happening in the Nordics today because none of the Nordic banks mandate contactless approval today. But in the UK and in Poland, in France, in, I would say, Benelux to some extent, and Germany to some extent, in order for us to place our equipment or service out in the field, we must be NFC approved. So that's there. But again, how do we compare that to Bluetooth Low Energy? So what are the card schemes? What is Visa and MasterCard and the bank saying about Bluetooth Low Energy? Probably in Europe, they're saying, oh, what does this mean now? So we're really not sure what Bluetooth Low Energy means. Does it mean that Apple wants to take away their business? Does it mean that Apple needs to have a relationship with bank customers, both merchant customers as well as phone holders? What's the relationship between an Apple telephone and a mobile network operator? So we've just started this whole thing again with Bluetooth Low Energy. Very exciting. It looks like it's more like check-in technology and check-out technology rather than payment technology. And believe me, I don't cast any aspersions or don't mean to say anything negative about Bluetooth Low Energy, but I think we have to think about all the other parts of any payment or customer or client-related systems that, again, is Bluetooth Energy just another one of these technology things? I'm not sure. I just don't have enough information on it. But NFC today, again, we can integrate it today. There's an infrastructure behind being able to take NFC payments. So here's the part that might frustrate people, and I think we really need to work this one through, those of us who are in the payment industry. EMV, if we do a parallel with, NFC, if we do a parallel of NFC with EMV adoption and implementation. 1996, 2010, 14 years, 2008, 14 years, 2022. So 2022, or that's in six to 8 years before payment becomes ubiquitous with NFC, if we use the same parallel as EMV acceptance. So I don't know how that makes the people feel in this room. We've had the long discussion in a number of technical projects where I'm involved in to be able to deliver solutions to people, and we go in the past and we say it takes this long to do it. And then the new guys who are doing technology, they say, oh no, we can do that in half the time. And then the time runs by and it actually did take that long. So it's really important to consider all the aspects of these programs. We've had NFC pilots going on for the past 5 years. More than 5 years, more like 7 years. And every time we do an NFC pilot for payment, everyone says, this is great, I want this. And then they shut the pilot down and no one has it, and then they go run another pilot. But I could tell you that the momentum for this is moving onwards now, and I think that's the part where Visa and MasterCard are pushing this. Again, I have to stress that all of the equipment that we have is going through complete NFC payment testing. That equipment is being rolled out. The value added, and it's much appreciated, the other participants in the conference, the value added part of NFC technology is super, super important because it's not regulated the same way payments are. Payments are a financial instrument that need kind of really tight regulation. To open a door in a hotel to start a car, a company can make that decision of how to do it. When you issue payment cards, whether they're magstripe cards or chip cards, the bank, independently of anyone else, in conjunction with the rules, can make the rules about the risk that they want to take. When they start to use a mobile phone, they have to take into account all the other parties' risk. So what do value-added services do for us in the payment industry? What they do is they enable us to use the existing technology and get people accustomed to using NFC. And I think we could have a conference about NFC user experience, by the way, because I think in a lot of cases, NFC user experience has been decided by technical people, and I know what happens when technical people decide how things function. They function really good for technical people, and they don't function well for the rest of the world, if you will. So I think value-added services are a good channel to be able to get people to use the technology. But I would also, in addition to the Norwegian payment system that was just mentioned, I'd also like to add that there is serious traction now with NFC in the US with ISIS. They've had a number of fits and starts of doing payments, but they're now underway. I think also in the UK, the organization called Weave, and we work very closely. I can't give you a lot of information. That includes NFC payments. That's going to roll out. In Spain, across a number of MNOs, we're seeing a number of final pushes to get these programs out into the field. And that goes back to the fact that we have the acceptance equipment, which is growing, the handsets, which are growing, and we're actually getting there. It's not going to be an explosion. It's going to be It's going to be a steady ramp up of NFC applications and payments. So this is a positive message. Don't give up on, I mean, we can all run off and look at Bluetooth low energy, and I think we have to do that. We can combine these things together. But NFC technology, we have a good technology base for the last 5 years, and we're going further along. And the company pitch is, we've made investments on this. We are driving it. We are driving this forward. One of the things that we do in the Nordics, together with this great point team in the Nordics, is we provide what we call payments as a service. And that means for a merchant, the infrastructure they need to accept payments, they just make a simple contract of wherever the industry goes, they'll be assured that they're going to be able to accept payments. They're going to be guaranteed a service level. They're going to be guaranteed quick repair. They're going to be guaranteed that if they have a problem with their payment infrastructure, we can provide it. We're rolling that service. VeriFone is rolling that service out now across a number of different markets as well. We have a number of gateways that we use to interface services. We could do that for NFC. We're doing it for non-NFC today. And we as well have a pretty interesting set of mobile marketing platforms, which I'm not going to go into detail, which enable us to provide the framework to push offers out to mobile network subscribers and be able to redeem them. We have the complete closed loop. Again, that's part of that implementation is with the GSMA to try to standardize value-added services on NFC. And so, rather than read the slide, I just want to conclude and say that a realistic approach from here on in with NFC, the implementation of payments, the implementation of value-added services. We have the acceptance infrastructure. The international card schemes are behind what we're trying to do. The value-added service providers are growing every day, and we see them more and more and more. And to be honest with you, I've gone through this downward spiral, and I'm actually more and more on the way up and thinking that over the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to see a ramp up of NFC payments, both across this region and globally. So please, if there's any information I can give you from VeriFone, or if there's any information you want, we're part of the GSMA. We have great infrastructure here across the Nordics. If there's anything that we can help you with, please contact me or the group from Point, and thank you.